awarded £1,500 by the Prince's Trust that gave me my start and my career.
Although his service and loyalty to his country and its people is unquestionable, it was his personal life that grabbed the attention of the world's media. Two people who knew Charles particularly well during his formative years, a former classmate, Johnny Stoneborough, and also former BBC royal correspondent, Michael Cole. Johnny, lovely to have you here. Michael, back again. The King described Gordonstoun famously as Colditz in kilts. Did he really hate the school, and was he bullied that much?
Yeah, I think the first couple of years were an absolute nightmare for him. He was very isolated. Anybody who wanted to be friends with him was bullied as well. I saw him actually get beaten up once in a scrum, because of course you can't see anything in the scrum, can you? You just get them. And a couple of the lads had a crack at him there. But the amazing thing was that he didn't react. He didn't cry or punch somebody or complain to anybody. He just stiff upper lip. Absolutely extraordinary.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it was absolutely known, Michael, as a harsh environment. And yet, and we know how difficult it was. His mother and his grandmother wanted him to go to Eton. They didn't want him to go to Gordonstoun. This was all about, Prince Philip. Making a man of him is what Philip said. It might have been horrible and harsh, as Johnny says, but it worked, didn't it?
Well, he may not have cried in front of his school friends, but he cried on the Queen Mother's shoulder every weekend. He got to go home to the Castle of May or to Burke Hall. He hated it going back. And the terrible thing is, Jeremy, that it got worse, because when he went to Australia, he went to Geelong, which is the Australian Eton. And there, it was not more than bullying. I mean, it was rough stuff, punching and all the rest of it. And, the epithet followed the word pom and then another epithet. And that's what he heard all day long. So bullying is vile in any form at all. It's the fear that it puts into the victims, having to face it every day. So he came through that, and I think it was a test of character. And he came through it very well, and it did, to some extent, knock some of the rough corners off.
Interesting that, Johnny. You've been quite outspoken about the school as well, that environment. Do you have any happy memories with him or yourself of that school, or was it as you're making it out?
Well, I think it was the first couple of years were a nightmare for him. But there were funny moments. In a classroom, he was actually very good company. I remember once he told me he didn't know where the kitchens were at Buckingham Palace. And the other thing he used to do, seriously, the other thing he used to do was he loved the goons. He always has loved the goons.
Of course.
And he used to imitate them. And suddenly this voice at the back of the class would be saying, "What time is it, Eccles? I don't know, it's 8 o'clock. And all this sort of stuff. Of course, it was him imitating. And we had these schoolmasters who didn't get it at all, and they didn't know how to react.
How did you react to the future king taking the what's it?
Absolutely.
And of course, dancing. Tell me about dancing.
God,
this is brilliant.
This is Gordonstoun. You used to talk about Colditz. My God, Gordonstoun is like a monastery, or it was, and there were no women around anywhere. So we had Highland dancing classes. Seriously,
Highland dancing classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we used to partner off. And
did you partner with King?
Yeah.
I want to hear this. Wow. This is brilliant. Go on, tell me.
Absolutely.
Who played the lady?
Absolutely. Well, that's a sort of state secret.
That would be. No, come on. Who did? I need that. Johnny.
Actually, in Scottish dancing, you sort of get to, it's quite easy to swap roles. But my wife always laughs about this man who danced with the Prince of Wales.
Do you think, Michael, knowing him, and Johnny makes some amazing comments there, that we've said, did it set him up to be king? And we're not condoning in any way the sort of environment. My old man would come from that generation. He would say that would have been great. Certainly his deep connection with nature that has shown itself in much of his life was first fostered really at Gordonstoun, wasn't it? In the Scottish Highlands.
Well, he went for lonely, long walks and communed with nature. It got a little bit better when he went to Cambridge. I was there at the gates of Trinity when he arrived, and it was a good start because he came in a Mini. He didn't come in a gilded coach or a limousine. And I was hoping that he would really fit right in. In the first term, he was asked by one of the student publications to write his impressions of Cambridge. Good idea. So he wrote about the singing dustman who woke him up every morning. So I was working for Anglia Television, and we raced down there and had luck with us. And we actually found the singing dustman in Trinity Lane. And there he was, a big, fat, wonderful Fenland Cambridge man, and he was singing and emptying the dustbin. So I thought to myself, we can't have half the story. So I nipped into Trinity. I went up the staircase. I knocked on his door, and there he was in his study all alone, and he seemed to me terribly, terribly sad. He was very nice, and he said, look, I can't really do an interview because other people want me to do an interview. But he was talking about it, and he was quite affable. But I felt very strongly that he didn't get in with the right crowd. He didn't mix with the right people.
Difficult.
I mean, if he's very introverted, you know.
Is he?
He's shy, introverted, awkward socially. And yet the funny thing about Gordonstoun was that it was very much about the sort of, you know, the man within rather than merely the education or whatever. And he went out and into the community, and he did stuff, worked in the community, and I think that helped him a lot.
I always think it's quite interesting. I said last night about Prince Philip, because we know, don't we, that for the early years on the back of Gordonstoun, his relationship with his father was not great, but actually the older that they both got, their relationship was very, very strong. And one, I hate to use the word aloofness, but that's quite relevant. You could say that Charles has done the same to his sons at times as well.
Well, I can't really comment on that, but I certainly know that there were some tensions.
Yeah.
You know, he was trying to live up to whatever it was that his father wanted from him. His father enjoyed Gordonstoun very much. It was very successful. They were entirely different characters.
What was your connection with Lady Diana?
She and I share a goddaughter.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Domenica Lawson, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was...
Dominic Lawson's daughter.
Dominic Lawson's daughter, absolutely,
What was interesting when it came to it, I mean, the king, as he is now, didn't need any persuading by Princess Diana. She wanted her sons to go to Eton, and he didn't put up a fight about that. It was interesting about Cambridge, and you mentioned the goons. It always seemed to me that I'm 5 years older than the king. I was 5 years old when he was born. He took a long time to develop, to become. He wasn't one of us in a way. When we were on to Monty Python, he was still doing the goons. And in fact, there was a college review, and he appeared from a dustbin, dressed as the singing dustman.
How brilliant is that?
Well, it was quite good. It was very brave of him, but it was a little bit. You know, it didn't really work. You know, he was stuck with Seacombe and Sellers when we'd moved on to...
he was never one of the lads.
But, I mean, therein, interestingly, gentlemen, lies the problem. Because if you go to Gordonstoun or anywhere else, you know, the Prince of Wales, and you're a lad, you'll be... I mean, I've always thought this about his life. I said to you the other night, your destiny, you have to wait most of your life, and it only happens when your mother dies. If you open your mouth, apparently you're interfering. And if you say nothing, you're an entitled idiot who is getting... And I actually think it must have been very difficult for him. And that's why I wanted to talk about these formative years, because it cannot have been easy for him, can it?
He did end up as head boy of Gordonstoun eventually. I mean, after he came back from Australia...
And also, wasn't he in Macbeth as well?
Oh, he's good.
I've got some pictures.
He was good. He was very good. I was in the same play with him. I had a very junior role.
You were Banquo's ghost.
I was...
See, I'd be hacked off. I'd be going, he only got the main role because he's the future king.
Actually, do you know, he was quite a good actor. Seriously, yeah. And he was in Henry V as well. No, he was a good actor.
Do you know, when he was at Cambridge, he studied anthropology and archaeology. And he did say, he said, studying anthropology, you know, when I have to go around the world and see all these dances and things, he said, it sort of makes me understand what they're really all about. It's very useful.
I can do a better one. I've said to my mother. Oh, lovely. So he's an actor, but an introvert. What's your view of him now from afar, from the boy that is to be on Saturday our king?
Yeah.
A big fan?
Yes. I am a big fan. Golly, we've been waiting a long time, haven't we? I mean, you know, but I think he's doing a very good job. I think we were all kind of, you know, holding our breath a little bit when Her Majesty died. And, you know, these 6 months, I think he's done a splendid job. It hasn't been easy for him with a certain amount of what you might call family problems being washed in public like that. So, no, I think he's doing a cracking job.
And from the boy that you first saw walk into Gordonstoun with what happened to him, he has come through his life. And Michael, literally, very quickly.
Yes, indeed.
Saturday is his day.
He hasn't put a foot wrong since the accession. He's a completely different man since 2005 when he married. He's now grounded. And his sister said something very wise yesterday. She said, with my brother, it's what you see is what you get. He's inured to any criticism. He wants to do it his way, and he will.
Fantastic. Johnny, so good to have you on. Michael, as ever, a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. This is why I do a rhyme. It's not particularly good, but please go with it. It's time for the rhyme. So, Australia's vaping ban, a cold call crackdown plan, and the national anthem. Are you a fan? That's not bad. I'll be speaking with Mike and Ava about all of this and more. Don't go anywhere. The showdown is next on JK Live. I'm coming right back.